Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just joining the call, let us begin the presentation with a very important disclaimer. One moment, let me move the slides forward. The information we'll be sharing in this call tonight is for information and educational purposes. We will not be providing individual financial or investment advice. Any decision you wish to make is entirely at your own discretion, as our goal here is to introduce you to the SWC ecosystem and tell you what the ecosystem is about. If you wish to make any financial decision, it's important to do your own research, to consult with your financial advisor before making any financial decision. Tonight, what I will be doing is showing you how Skyward Community Services, such as the Skyward Community Field, the Skyward Community Pass, Skyward Community EdTech, all integrate into the single ecosystem of SWC Field, which is more than just a website, but a comprehensive infrastructure that is designed to help support participation in global markets. So tonight, we'll walk through the new direction of the SWC company, the SWC Field Showcase, and how obtaining the SWC Pass gives you the access to the infrastructure that SWC has created. We'll also discuss the legal standards of what is called special purpose vehicles and how you can participate in our partner community through the affiliate program of Skyward Community. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've noticed how in recent years the world has moved much faster. Technology has advanced, capital growth rates have increased, and interestingly, private investment market has now surpassed the public investment market. Yet, to access these opportunities often remains restricted to select few individuals. How many of you on this call heard about the IPO of Tesla, which happened very recently? Give me plus if you are aware of the IPO of Tesla. Give me minus if you are not aware. So I'm looking in the chat to see your response. Okay, Miss Sophie and Patricia is giving a plus. Great. Miss Dauda is not aware. Mr. Number of you are not aware of the biggest event that happened in the Nasdaq Stock Exchange in the last few years. Okay, let me give you the lowdown. Tesla has a, or rather, sorry, not Tesla. I said Tesla because it's owned by the same person. Elon Musk's company, SpaceX, recently went public. Yes, it went public on Nasdaq, and this event made ever trillionaire that the world has ever seen or ever created or ever had. And this was because his stake in SpaceX, when you value it, his assets increased significantly and he reached a net worth of over $1 trillion. So Elon Musk is now officially the first ever trillionaire the world has ever had, with a net worth of roughly $1.1 trillion. His company, SpaceX, recently went public, like I mentioned, and went public on Nasdaq stock market. The price per share as a listing was around $132 or $138. I'm not very sure of which. And I think it closed on the first day around $172. Not sure of the figures, but you can check this after this call. You can run a Google search, and or perhaps I can share my browser tab and run a search, but that'll be at the end of the presentation. Now, this event made many new millionaires. Many people who owned the pre-IPO shares of SpaceX became millionaires. If you check the internet, you will see many of them that were interviewed by news channels, and they were sharing their experiences. In fact, there were people who used to be welders in the company who bought the shares of the company and became millionaires as a result. They bought the pre-IPO shares, very important. Now, did you have the opportunity to buy the shares of SpaceX before it listed in NASDAQ stock market yesterday? For many of us in this call, the answer will be no, because it was insiders. It was employees of the SpaceX company and people who have access to the company founder who were able to get hold of the stake of the company before the company went public on the NASDAQ stock exchange market. So this is exactly what we are talking about when we say such opportunities, especially to invest in amazing innovative companies that are still in the startup or the private phase of their development, is limited to just a few people. Access is limited, access is restricted, and this is a problem that SWC Field is trying to fix. I believe we live in an age where these opportunities ought to be more open to more than just those who are more or less like the chosen ones, the chosen few. And that's why SWC Field was created. SWC Field is a system that's designed so that private participants can cease to be observers and become active participants in such advanced opportunities. Because I was looking at many of those interviews with all those people who became millionaires because they owned shares in SpaceX before it went public, and now their stake is valued, and they have, you know, if you multiply the number of shares they own by the amount it was listed, their stake is now worth millions. And some of them were saying things like, they were asking them questions like, what is now most important for you? And some of them were saying that they want to stay healthy because, of course, when you have, solved your financial problems, the next thing you would want is to live long enough to enjoy the benefits. So I felt like an observer. I was watching the interviews and it felt like these guys had this opportunity I didn't have, and now I get to sit in the sidelines and watch them share how this event has transformed their lives, and I could not participate in this event. It did not feel fair to me. Now, it's not as if I'm happy for them, but they have this access which the rest of us did not have by virtue of being employees in the company, being able to access the company before it went public. This kind of opportunity should be more open to other people. And if you agree with that, just type agree in the chat. Now, this is the problem SWC Field is here to solve. Most times when you as an individual begin to scout for opportunities by yourself, one of the things that you will have to deal with is information overload. You will see a lot of information, you'll be overwhelmed, you'll be mentally overloaded. You will also face uncertainty, especially if you are approaching your research with a lack of strategy. And also, if you research, especially opportunities that are in the private investment market, it's very common for you to begin to feel like the best opportunities are not available because you will hear of these opportunities, but you will not be able to access them. For example, for some time now, we knew that SpaceX was going to be listing their shares in the public market. We also knew that people already had those shares. People had the opportunity to invest before it came to limelight in the public market and the Nasdaq Stock Exchange began to trade their shares publicly. We know that these opportunities are there. For example, OpenAI is about to also go public. We have some amazing companies yet to go public. Even in come closer to home, you have Dangote Refinery, which is yet to go public. But even as it is yet to go public, you and I know that there are some people, in fact, for example, Femi Otedola had a meeting with Dangote where he was able to get private placement of $100 million worth of shares that have not even been publicly listed yet. You and I know that all these are opportunities that me and you like to get into, but we can't get into them. But people are there who can. We know about it. And it's very common for you to feel that all these amazing opportunities are reserved for select few and they are unavailable to the everyday person. It's common to feel left out. It's kind of like a conversation that you are not permitted to participate in. Now, I want to clarify that this is a matter of access. It's not a matter of knowledge because we know about this opportunity, but we just cannot access them. So it is this access that the SWC field is hoping to create, an access architecture. So Skyward Community has built that architecture to bridge the gap between us and high-tier projects. To do this, they've upgraded their infrastructure. Of course, you know the Skyward Community website, which supported crowdfinancing of projects. They have now moved up to what is now called the Skyward Community Field, and they've done this to match the latest international standard. Now, this has meant implementing a systematic selection of projects, not just one project, but multiple projects in the form of an ecosystem where you have multi-projects. And this systematic selection of projects follows a very clear logic. They have a very robust legal model, and the platform that they are using puts all these opportunities in a structured environment. Now, I want to introduce you to the Skyward Community Field, SWC Field. And this is a next generation project showcase. It's not just a random list of projects, it's a structured environment where selected investment products are compiled with a deliberate portfolio design, a deliberate portfolio architecture. In this environment, in this space, every project undergoes preliminary screening. Every project is categorized according to their risk level, and this structure allows you to be able to view this opportunity through a lens of professional analysis rather than vague marketing promises. This showcase is designed to provide you with the opportunity for diversification. You can select projects in categories based on your own need, and access to this project is through an SPV structure, a special purpose vehicle structure. In the SWC field, you will find projects that have been organized and categorized according to their risk level into three segments. So we have low risk projects that involve stable and structured products that helps you with balance and sustainability in your portfolio. We have moderate risk projects that offers that balance between stability and growth. Finally, we have high risk projects focusing more on venture, startups, and innovative projects that have the capacity to accelerate your capital growth. However, they also carry significant amounts of risk. So you have all this categorization to enable you be able to screen and select projects according to your risk appetite, your investment preferences, etc. Every project in this SWC Field Showcase already underwent a rigorous vetting process. And this vetting process begins with a deep business model analysis, a thorough team and reputation verification, and following that, they perform risk analysis. They assess economic indicators, they assess legal readiness, and it is only those projects that meet all these strict selection criteria that eventually get featured in the project showcase. So what you're looking at the end of the day is a thoroughly screened, thoroughly vetted project selection. You are not just seeing projects that are just listed up there. They have already undergone pre-screening. So you are basically now going to be doing a secondary screening when you are looking at any project and then deciding for yourself whether or not it is suitable for you. Now, every project has 7-point transparency description. So the description of the project includes 7 points. You will see the risk segment, talking about the categorization according to high, medium, or low risk. You will see the investment logic behind the project. You will see the minimum threshold of entry. You will see the key risk factors, etc. So Skyward community wants you to make an informed decision, not a decision based on marketing hype or marketing promises. They want you fully enlightened and conscious when you make a decision on any of the projects you find on the SWC Showcase. Now, important to mention is the fact that to access the SWC field and the project showcase, you need to have the SWC Pass subscription. Now, this SWC Pass gives you the access to the SWC field. Think of it like your ticket to the game. If you have a ticket to the World Cup match, for example, the match is taking place in a field, but in order to access that stadium, you need a ticket. So your SWC Pass is that ticket. SWC field is where the projects are being showcased, and in there you have projects that are showcased according to their risk segment. You also have the road to 1 million strategy, which can help you build a portfolio of dividend paying companies in the US stock market in according to the monthly signals that the road to 1 million strategy will provide you. You have analytics and platform tools, and you have access to the partner community and the agency program that enables you to receive agency remuneration. So the participants in the ecosystem get an infrastructure for managing their assets and participating in platform projects. Are you following what I'm saying? Type following if you're following. So think of the SWC field as a showcase of projects and the SWC Pass as the SaaS product, software as a service product, that gives you the legal and the technological right to access that infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Now, your subscription includes the product called Road to 1 Million, which is SWC's flagship portfolio foundation product. That product helps you to build a dividend portfolio for US and Russian stock markets. So it includes capital allocation and asset selection logic. Now, the best part of this product is that it only requires 10 minutes of your time per month. I use this product myself. In fact, I was using this product and I was thinking if I have been using this for the last 10 years, by now my portfolio probably would have been returning dividends sufficient enough to cover maybe my monthly expenses. In fact, I have a recording where I show how I use this product, which is available, and I think I shared it for those of you who saw on the group. I shared this particular product and the usage of it. So this is something that I think is very helpful to me in particular, and so I want you to check it out if it is something that you think will be beneficial to you as well. All right, so moving on. In today's world, information is everywhere. We have information access, but information that is not structured is not enough. Free content often creates more confusion than clarity. If you agree with me, type agree in the chat. Free content creates contradictory opinions. I remember my wife was trying to figure out a particular technique to use in fashion design, a particular way, a particular thing should be done. You know, different people have different techniques. So she went on YouTube and she searched for the particular technique, the outcome that she wanted. And she saw several videos, different people with different perspectives, different opinions. See, at the end of the day, she ended up being more confused than clarified. And so she just had to register for a training to go and learn directly from a professional. So when you go online for free content, you end up sometimes with more confusion than clarity, because the information you find there lacks structure. You just get overloaded with information and you don't get any clarity, you don't get any clear direction. Now, SWC Pass aims to provide you with portfolio architecture and analytical structure with clear framework and step-by-step processes. So the difference between random information and a systematic approach is the organization of that information in accessible and usable format. With SWC Pass, you move from emotional decisions, right, to structured decisions. I experienced this myself because having created a broker account, I got to the stage where I now needed to start buying the shares of these companies that pay dividends in order to start building my portfolio. And I was kind of confused. I began to think which companies to buy their shares. I would tell you for free, my decision, if I had made one, would have come from emotional, would have had a tinge of emotional influence, because I am not very familiar with technical market analysis, fundamental analysis to check which particular stocks I should be buying in my portfolio for dividends. So I had to use the product to Road to 1 million, and it really helped because it was right there. Already the signals were for the month had been sent based on the analysis done by market experts. So all I had to do was see the product, see the recommendation, see the logic, and just go there and select the asset, allocating my capital according to the allocation strategy that was already specified in the document. Very easy. Within 10 minutes, I was done. And thankfully, I recorded that video so you can actually see how easy it is to do. Now we're in the month of June, and I'm waiting for the signals for June so that I can go ahead and place investments and continue to build my portfolio. So it takes you from emotional decisions to structured decisions. It takes you from random investing to capital allocation logic. It takes you from an isolated space where you work all by yourself to a participation in a community and in an ecosystem. It takes you basically from confusion to clear frameworks. If you're on this call and you already use this product, the Road to 1 million, kindly indicate by putting plus in the chat. Now, Let me see how many of us already use this product. Don't be shy. If you don't use the product, put minus. If you are yet to start using this product, just go ahead and put a minus. But if you already use this product, put a plus. Let's see who already uses this product. Okay, Mr. Godwin is yet to use this product. Thank you for your feedback. We have, okay, so the next, your name here says Zoom user, but I remember you typed your name early on when you introduced yourself and where you were joining from. So we have a number of people who are yet to use this product, and it's very okay because this is where you need to be, because the aim is to move you from an observer to a participant, to move you from chaos to structure, and to move you from contingency to strategy. So you learn about the product and then you can decide if it's a product that you want to make use of. Important to mention is that SWC Pass is provided through multiple subscription options. We already said subscription is a software as a service solution which you can take advantage of and use for a period of time. And there are three categories or three options for subscription. Each one gives you a different level of access. We have Essential, gives you access for 1 year. We have Plus, giving you access for 5 years. And we have Ultimate, giving you access for a lifetime. The purpose is to allow the participant to choose based on their goals, based on how committed they wish to be, and the desired level of access they wish to. It's not about the price, it's about the infrastructure you gain access to and how long you intend to make use of it. I'm having stable, unstable internet connection. So please, if my network should glitch or if you stop hearing me, let me know. Or perhaps just write in the chat if the network begins to become my video begins to lag, or maybe my audio begins to lag. Just let me know quickly. So if I have to switch networks, switch internet service provider, I'll be able to do that on time. All right, so let's move on. Now, talking about professional investment infrastructure, they are usually very expensive. If you have ever used the services of a financial advisor, you discover that per session you might be paying up to hundreds of dollars just for single sessions. Then if you use analytical service, this may cost you up to thousands of dollars per annum. But the Skyward community integrates multiple layers into one system, positioned not merely as an expense, but as access to infrastructure with real value and leverage. Yes. So your journey in this ecosystem is quite simple. First thing you do is you subscribe to the SWC Pass. You can already start using the Road to 1 Million product. Then when you complete your KYC, you can access the SWC field and select your risk segments and begin to select from the available projects and build for yourself a diversified investment portfolio. Please note that to ensure your account, that's your previous SWC account, and your partner structure relation in the SWC field correctly synchronize, you must join the SWC field with the same email address which you used in your SWC personal account. Using the same email address is important in order to preserve your affiliate structure and transfer your status. Please, is that clear? If that is clear, type clear in the chat. Okay, Mr. Godwin, let me quickly take your question. You said is the pass a package? The SWC pass is a ticket to the ecosystem. The SWC field is where you have the project showcase and the road to 1 million product. All of this is accessible with the ticket. The ticket is SWC pass. It gives you access for a duration of either 1 year, 5 years, or a lifetime, depending on which one you pick. Then when you have now gained that access to their investment infrastructure and project showcase, you can now pick from there different products, and those products may have packages, or for example the road to 1 million product. That one is, it's not something you pay for. The product is just something you use every month to build an investment portfolio of companies already listed, dividend paying companies already listed in the stock market. So the product gives you signals of which shares are performing well, which ones to buy, etc. So based on that, you can easily build a portfolio without having to do all the heavy lifting and all the analysis yourself. So comparing that with what you would have spent if you were to hire the services of a professional financial advisor, or you were to use analytical services, this one will cost you far less. So you are getting more value for less of the money you would have spent if you had used a different kind of tool. So I hope we are clear on that. Next part of the presentation will be dwelling and dealing with the concept of SPV, which means Special Purpose Vehicles, which is a professional structure that is widely used in institutional finance. And the purpose of SPV is to organize participation more effectively and make it more in line with international standards. Before I go on, I think I need a drink of water. I want you to take a look at this particular slide. Just, look at it for 1 minute before we continue. Now, this page explains exactly how an SPV works using a very simple example. You see, several participants combine capital through one structure. The SPV then acts as one investor representing the interest of all those participants when interacting with an external project. So for example, instead of many individuals approaching and investing separately in an entity, the SPV aggregates participation into one structured legal entity and represents the interest of every single participant and enters into that external investment product or project as one investor. So this creates access to opportunities with larger entry requirements. Let me give you an instance. You see this SpaceX, this company that just went public, Elon Musk SpaceX. Now imagine that the pre-IPO of that company started at $500,000. Are you with me? Listen carefully. If that company had opportunity for participation and the minimum threshold for entry was $500,000, please, anyone on this call, $500,000, you have disposable income of up to the amount of $500,000. Just, I won't say you should indicate because it is going to be unnecessary for you to expose yourself like that. But when you talk about high net worth individuals with disposable income, I did not say $500,000 is the only money you have. That $500,000 is like your disposable income. Not a lot of people have it. Even in the developed economies of the world, many people do not have disposable income of $500,000. In fact, just base income of $500,000, not a lot of people can really say that they have it. True or false? Type false if I'm lying in the chat. Type true if I'm telling the truth. So when I talk about disposable income, I'm saying that this is money that you can afford to, when you say invest what you are willing to lose. This is the kind of money that you can lose and still carry on as though nothing happened. So that's disposable. Well, maybe disposable income is not the exact term to use. I should use a different term to represent that. Let me use the term disposable capital. Disposable capital or available capital, because disposable income refers to something else, not exactly what I am trying to talk about. Thank you for your feedback, because like I just mentioned, not a lot of people have that disposable or available capital to participate by themselves as a single individual in a project like SpaceX pre-IPO, because the ticket usually starts at a very high amount. For example, $500,000. However, maybe you have $20,000. Somebody else has $10,000. Someone else has $5,000. Someone else has $2,000. Someone else has $1,000. And then all of you aggregate your capital. And then one company representing your interest is able to aggregate all that capital until you are able to reach the minimum entry requirement of $500,000. So all of you now took part in that company, that SPV, that special purpose vehicle with your different capital until you reach the ticket requirement, and that SPV closes the participation window because the amount of money to enter into that project has been realized. The SPV now took everybody's money and entered into that SpaceX IPO or pre-IPO as one investor and bought a stake of $500,000. But within that SPV, within that company representing all these investors' interest, Dele has 10%, BC has 20%, Funke has 15%, and like this, everybody's interest is protected. When that SPV, that company, receives returns on its investment, according to what you have and your stake in the SPV can then return you profits from your investment and from your participation. This is the legal model of the SPV, helping to aggregate and participate in projects as one structured entity and give people who wouldn't have had the opportunity to participate in such projects that we have mentioned, such amazing opportunity that looks like it is for the select few. You will now have access through an SPV. So the SPV creates access to opportunities with larger entry requirements. Are you following what I'm saying? If you are following, type following. Now, an SPV is a separate company created for a specific product or a specific opportunity. This means each project can have its own structure. Participants' funds in one investment project are separated from another project and they don't get mixed up. Your right of participation are legally structured according to the SPV, and it improves the organization of participation in projects as well as the transparency. Participants are not simply participating vaguely. They are participating through a structured legal entity. Now, there are 4 important functions performed by an SPV. The first one is risk segregation. Risk segregation. One project's issues does not automatically affect another project. So this is how it segregates risk. The second is transparent recording of investors' rights. Your participation rights are clearly documented and they are legally transparent. The third function an SPV performs is it meets up with internationally recognized professional standards. SPVs are widely used by venture capital firms and institutional investors. So this is basically how professional standards for participation in projects are structured. So to meet up with the professional standards, SPVs are required. Now, the fourth function performed by an SPV is capital aggregation. Many of these external opportunities requires large entry threshold. An SPV helps the participant to combine resources in order to reach the level of the minimum entry requirements of institutional investors, to reach the institutional investment participation levels. So capital aggregation is one of the key functions of an SPV. Now, different countries have different legal proceedings and systems, and so there's no one size fits all approach, which is why the platform has different systems for participation for different jurisdictions. That's why it's important to do your KYC in order to help the platform determine your country, your jurisdiction, and the applicable legal structure for your participation. Now, through KYC, it determines all of that and then redirects you to the appropriate regulated structure available for your region, the appropriate legal structure for your region. So it's very important for everyone to participate through the proper legal model for their region of participation. Different SPVs and platforms are used for different regions to ensure compliance in the USA, in Europe, in Russia, and in international multi-region jurisdiction. There are different SPVs and different platforms for different regions. So participants from different countries can interact through different legal models. And why is this important? It's important because compliance, participants' protection, and transparencies are top priorities. And this is one structured infrastructure for participation is very important. Are you following what? If you are following, type following in the chat. Okay, my network has taken me out of the call, so my laptop is currently not connected. I would like to just beg your crave your indulgence for 5 minutes while I try to fix the network challenge.
Recording in progress.
Are we back? Can you hear me? I said earlier that I had some network challenges, and that was exactly what happened. My network threw me out of the call abruptly. I really am sorry about that. I'm trying to ensure it doesn't happen again. Give me one 1 minute to fix it from my end. Can you imagine? I have sufficient data here to live stream throughout the night, and yet my network is not permitting me to. Okay, it seems that we're back. So please, if you can see me, you can hear me, just give me a plus in the chat before we continue. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I see your pluses. Let me share my screen once again because it looks as though my screen sharing has been temporarily terminated. Let me also use this opportunity to acknowledge those people who have just joined the call. I see we have a number of new persons on the call, and I'd like to welcome you and also to wish you happy Democracy Day in arrears. So yes, let us continue. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Currently, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, if you can see my screen. No, if you cannot.
Yes, I can see from here. Good evening from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Prince Jerry Osayende. Thank you so much for your feedback. All right, so let's continue. Where were we? I think I was talking about an example demonstrating how the capital aggregation logic works. So here's the way it works is that if an opportunity requires, say for example, $1 million as minimum entry threshold. Let me go back to the SpaceX example. SpaceX, pre-IPO for SpaceX, the IPO just happened, but assuming the pre-IPO's minimum entry requirement was $1 million, because usually in a pre-IPO, you do not participate with small capital. You're not going to participate with $50 or $100 or even $1,000. Now, Dangote Refinery, which we all know about, of course, we hear the IPO is coming up, but let me tell you, people have invested already in that project. People have bought the stakes of Dangote Refinery. And how do you know this? Because if you look at recently, Dangote and Femi Otedola had a meeting, and the outcome of the meeting was that Dangote gave Femi Otedola private placement worth $100 million. And then Femi now sold his stake in Gerebu to raise the capital to participate in Dangote Refinery's pre-IPO, because pre-IPOs are places where money is made. When you enter in a pre-IPO, a private placement, when you enter before the company goes public, when you finally get that company to the public market, you can double, quadruple, or even increase your capital by 5 or 10 times. It's crazy. Mad money is made during pre-IPO investing. As a matter of fact, I did a calculation for Zoom where I checked how much would you have made if you had invested in Zoom's pre-IPO, and I ran a small calculation of, because Peter Obi had a chance to invest in Zoom pre-IPO for, as a high net worth individual, he had the opportunity, and it was selling its shares, pre-IPO shares, at 30 cents per share. And then later, this same Zoom went public at $32 per share on the first day, and then closed trading at $62 per share on that same first day. Then a year later, Zoom traded for $559 per share during COVID. So I calculated that if Italy had invested in the pre-IPO and just maybe he put in $500,000, 500,000 naira, that investment would have increased to 1.7 billion naira in 2020 if he had put it At that time, it was 30 cents in 2015 and sold it at the time it became $559 in 2020. So if you factor in Naira to dollar exchange at 2015 and then 2020, you would see that his investment at 2015 of $500,000, 500,000 Naira, will be worth 1.7, almost 1.8 billion Naira in 2020. If you want to see the breakdown, I could share it to you, or maybe if this call ends and we have some time, I can share it at the end of this call. So in private investing, there is a lot of capital appreciation. Let me also mention there is a lot of risk as well. It will not be a balanced information if I tell you about the benefits without telling you about the risk. It's risky. However, it also has high growth potential. Now, coming back to the slide on my screen, to participate as an individual in some of these opportunities is impossible because it's not everybody that have available disposable capital up to the amount required for the minimum entry in some of these opportunities for private placement. You saw even Femi Otedola, as wealthy as he is, had to sell some of his shares in Geregu in order to raise the amount of money required for the private placement opportunity that Dangote granted him in the Dangote refinery project. So individual participants themselves may not be able to access these opportunities, but as a collective, using an SPV, imagine 250 participants contributing $4,000 each. What do you get? You get $1 million. And so that $1 million can now represent the aggregated participation of all these 250 participants who now enter into this project with one single ticket, and that's the power of aggregation. So this is how SPV could help people to participate in such hitherto inaccessible opportunities like private investing. Now let us look at the operational process step by step. This helps you understand how the ecosystem functions from beginning to end. Now for the beginning, you are just a participant who subscribes to the SWC pass, gains access to the system. However, you don't yet participate in any project. Excuse me. So after this step, the next step is you see the SWC field project showcase and you choose a suitable participation option. That is whether you want to go for high, medium, or low risk products. Now, it's important after this that you do your KYC in order for your jurisdiction to be determined. And when you've completed your KYC and identity verification, the system will determine which country you live in and which legal framework suits you the best. After that, you move to the next step where you can review the opportunities within the showcase, including the risk categories, their project terms and conditions, liquidity restrictions, availability, etc. And the next step is the documentation, where you sign the various agreements, compliance documents, including SPV agreements, local compliance documents as necessary. And you move to step 4, where you move funds through the appropriate payments channel and your participation in the SPV is recorded. Once the SPV now reaches the minimum required capital, the ticket closes and then the SPV interacts with the opportunity as one entity representing the interest of all participants in the SPV. Do you understand what I just said? If you understand, type understood in the chart as we move forward. Now, transparency is very important. So after you are done with participation in the SPV, the system will track the participation amount, your percentage stake in the SPV, conditions for profit distribution. There will be reporting updates. For example, those who have invested in SpaceX, perhaps during the pre-IPO, the updates, they may be following up on their own, maybe reading the news, following the news on various platforms. It might be disorganized, but here you have a structured dashboard. Participants of a particular project through a particular SPV get all updates related to that project in one dashboard. So this is also very important in order to keep you updated and keep the system transparent. When distributions of profit occur, it is allocated proportionally based on your participation level. And you can monitor updates directly from your personal account. Now, the final step, which is exit and liquidity, is how you get back your funds. And this depends on the chosen platform instrument, that's the project that you enter into, the terms and conditions of that particular project, because different opportunities may have different timelines. Some may have a fixed tenor, a fixed term, and you should understand liquidity conditions before participation. Liquidity restrictions, for example. Is this something that you can liquidate? When can you liquidate it? How soon? All of this information, you must have them. This is where doing your research is important. Even though they have put all the information in one dashboard, you have a responsibility to study the information so that you will participate with full knowledge of what you're participating in, full awareness of what you are doing. Are we together now? Type together if we are together. Now, without all this structure, without structured systems like the special purpose vehicles, you're going to face several problems. You're going to face the problem of high entry. One moment. You're going to face the problem of high entry threshold. You're going to face the problem of lack of transparency. You're going to face problem of assets intermingling and poor management structures, etc. To avoid all these problems is why SPV structure is used, because it aims to reduce all these problems through organization and through segregation, so that different projects are not muddled up together. Participation in one project is independent and exclusive of participation in another project. Now, this is a summation of the full process, of which shows how the participation is structured through the SWC field ecosystem. You as a participant, you purchase SWC pass, you access SWC field, you submit your KYC document, you select the product of interest to you, you make your payments, the SPV aggregates the funds, the SPV invests, you receive your income through the distribution in proportion to the stake you own in the SPV, and withdraw your income. The key takeaway is that aggregation through special purpose vehicle creates access to projects that have high entry barriers. And as we conclude tonight's presentation, I want to quickly mention that tonight's presentation is not just about opportunity, it's also about infrastructure, it's also about access. The future, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to people who understand systems, people who understand structure, people who understand access, and people who understand strategic positioning. The question now is, will you After hearing everything we've said tonight, will you remain a spectator while a system has already been built? Or will you position yourself and become a part of this infrastructure that has been created? This is the question that I ask you, and this is something for you to think about as we prepare to wrap up tonight's conversation.